Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome. We were just making our way across, and I think we might have a few people strolling in, but I think we can get started. So welcome to the last set of sessions of a long conference. Thank you for making it to the end. My name is Noura Wahbi. I'm an assistant professor of public policy and public administration here at the department at AUC in the School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. This session is on resilience in policy making and public administration. Resilience, I think we all, or at least me, I have a very love-hate relationship with the word. It can mean everything and nothing. But I think with the set of papers that we had that focus specifically on different types of resilience in different sectors, so we have another session that's also focusing on, in that session, they're looking at papers related to refugees, solidarity, economies. But here we're more on the economic education side and also rural, which I think is going to be very interesting to see the different ways in which the term kind of changes based on the sector. So, without further ado, I think we can get started. We'll proceed with the same order of papers in the program. So to lead us off, we have Assessing Public Organizational Resilience with Amira Gamal-Eddin Zeyna Nema, Michael Natursky, and Professor Khalid Zakaria Amin. Presenting on behalf of the group is Amira. And Amira is currently the anti-corruption advisor at the economic governance activity in Egypt with USAID. We heard from her this morning as well. So she's providing the high-level technical assistance and support to government counterparts. She's a PhD fellow at the UNU Maastricht University, focusing on governance and policy analysis. So Amira, over to you. We will have between 10 to 15 minutes presentation. At 10 minutes, I'll give you the 5 minutes warning. Thank you.
Hi everyone. It's really good to be here at the AUC. Actually, I'm a PPAD alumni, and currently I'm a PhD fellow at Maastricht University. And today I'm presenting part of my dissertation. It's on assessing public organization resilience. The paper is co-authored with my dear professors and supervisors, Zeyna Nema, Michael Natursky, and Khalid Zakaria Amin. Zeyna and Michael are professors of public policy and governance in Maastricht University, and Dr. Khalid is the professor of public administration at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University. So, So we all know and witnessing that there is a turbulent and changing time, and there are so many disruptions where our public organizations may be disrupted with different shocks, and this may hinder their ability to provide services. So COVID-19 came as a test for the ability of public organizations to face different disruptions. And different organizations and public organizations have been criticized for their performance during COVID-19 because they had limited capacity to face COVID-19. And at the same time, COVID came as an opportunity because COVID came to open the door for more research on resilience and the resilience of public organizations. So why it's important for public organizations to be resilient? It's important because resilience provides the capacities to public organizations to face disruptions, and it supports the decision-making process during the disruptive events. The purpose of this paper is it's offering a conceptual framework for public organization resilience by identifying its key dimensions and drivers. It also proposes an operational assessment tool to help public organizations assesses their resilience capabilities. The research question of the paper is what are the key dimensions and drivers of public organization resilience, and how can they be effectively assessed to enhance the resilience of public organizations. So it's the methodology here, it's a qualitative approach of extensive literature review, focusing on the theoretical analysis to unpack the concept of resilience. So in general, resilience is a very complex term, and it emerged in the discipline of ecology and then transferred to other disciplines such as engineering, management, and psychology. So by looking at the literature, when it comes to organizational resilience, we will find two streams. The first focuses on the ability of public organizations to bounce back to its state before the disruption. And this is the first one. The second one goes to the fact that the ability of public organizations to bounce forward, to transform and learn in a better state to be able to face future disruptions. Also, when we focus on the literature, we will find that resilience has a dynamic nature. Different articles and publications refer to resilience when it comes to the multi-level resilience. We can say that when it comes to the organizations, there is the employee resilience, there is the organization resilience, and then there is the community resilience. Also, there are so many papers that had this sort of the maturity level of resilience, where each level of resilience has specific characteristics and capabilities. Also, we have the temporal nature of resilience. Sometimes organization resilience is perceived from the different times of the disruption. Before, during, and after disruption, the organization need to have a specific capability. And finally, there are some concepts that are linked to resilience, like robust governance. Robust governance refers to the ability of organizations to function and maintain their functions during disruption, and as well as the ability of these organizations to transform to a better state. So robust governance is a similar concept to the resilience that is focusing on the bounce forward approach. So when looking at the literature map, we will find that so many research papers focused on the theoretical aspect of organizational resilience. They try to unpack the concepts, focus on its dimensions, its different drivers, and so on and so forth. Others focus on the empirical part, where the application and practical part of resilience. And also, we will find qualitative research focusing mainly on the in-depth interviews, and quantitative research focusing on surveys and models, and there are research with papers with mixed methods. When it comes to the resilience of public organizations, COVID-19 came to there is a peak in the research of public organization resilience after COVID-19. And when we look at the geographical distribution of the studies, we will find that the US and UK and the European countries have the main interest of organization resilience. Few studies are focusing on the African countries, and very, very limited studies in the MENA region. So when we focus on the dimensions of resilience as they are stated and mentioned in the literature, we will find that the planning is an important aspect of resilience. Here, the literature focuses on the aspects of emergency planning, resilience planning, and the preparation of organizations to the future disruptions. Also, the scanning of the environment is very important. Here, the focus is on the early warning systems, the strategic foresight, and the ability of organizations to prepare and have risk management in terms of the information needed to face future disruptions. Also, the dimensions of communication, coordination, and collaboration are very important, specifically during the phase of disruption, between the different agencies. Here we're talking about the vertical and horizontal communication and coordination. And also, when we have, with any crisis or any disruption, there is also the improvisation. So here's the extent to which the organizations are flexible during disruption to adjust its processes and procedures during disruption. And also we have the learning, and here it comes the concept of the bounce forward, the learning and then transforming to a better state. And also it is important in the literature to focus on the leadership and the governance structure. And here we are focusing on the decentralization versus centralization approaches of organizations. This is the conceptual framework of the paper. It's adopted conceptual framework. It is focusing on the temporal nature of resilience, and it is looking at resilience as a meta capability that should incorporate other capability in the institution. So the pre-disruption phase, it's the anticipation phase. The organization should have observation and identification capabilities and preparation capabilities. During disruption or the coping phase, the organization should have accepting, developing, and implementing solutions. And the post-disruption phase, which is the learning one, adaptation, reflection, and learning capabilities. All the three capabilities are impacted by the resource availability, the social resources, and here comes the networks, and the power and responsibility. What I did and what we did in the paper, we took this framework and we operationalized it into an assessment tool. So this is the assessment tool. Here it comes the dimensions, the anticipation dimensions, and there is the capability, and we added the elements of each capability. So the observational identification, we perceive that early warning is important, awareness of the staff is important, and participation exercises, for example, the simulation before the disruption is important. Also, the planning strategies when it comes to the preparation, response and recovery priority, where the organization should have specific priorities before disruption and identify their priorities when the disruption happens. What are our key priorities when it comes to resilience? And here is the definition of each element of the elements. In the coping, it's a developing solution. And in the developing solutions, we have the element of communication, coordination, and creativity, because with disruptions, the innovation and creativity comes. And then there is the flexibility, where the extent to which the organizations are flexible to face disruptions. And there is the post, the adaptation part, dimension, which is focusing on the change and reflection. Here, the realization and adjustment. It's yes, we learn, but it is important to change, so to apply the learning that to transform to the better state. And for the power and for the drivers of resilience, we have the power and responsibility. So the leadership and governance, we focus on the structures, the roles and responsibilities, and the decision making. And the social resources, it's the social networks, whether with the private sector, with the civil society, and so on and so forth, with the development partners as well. And for the resource availability, we focus on the human, financial, and physical resources. So in conclusion, public organizations need to build their resilience capacities to adapt and maintain their operations amid challenges. The offered assessment tool assesses public organizations' resilience capabilities and helps identify their strengths, weaknesses, guiding them to undertake a specific action to improve their resilience capabilities, enhance effectiveness, and ensure service delivery during disruption. Definitely further research is needed to apply the assessment tool in different contexts. Thank you.
We'll leave questions and comments to the end. So if you can keep your questions, don't forget them. We will go through all of the presentations and yeah, take all the questions at the end. So next we have Mr. Bassem Rashid. The talk of his presentation is titled The Role of Executive Education Centers in Leadership Development in the MENA region. Mr. Bassem is a senior political researcher in European affairs. He holds a master's degree from Cairo University's Faculty of Economics and Political Science. He's currently pursuing his PhD in Euro-Mediterranean Studies, and he also works as an expert assistant and team leader at Egypt's Information and Decision Support Center under the Egyptian cabinet. So Bassem, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all? Okay. Okay. First of all, I'm so pleased and honored to be amongst a group of remarkable researchers and professors. It's my first time at AUC, actually. So I'm very honored to be here today. My paper is about the role of executive training centers or education centers in leadership development in the MENA region. One of the hardest parts of my paper is deciding on the title of the paper. So yes, this was the last thing I did. I was thinking about the bridging the gap. I navigated my choices, but I found at the end that the bridge, the main function of the bridge is to provide a passage over obstacles. So if we are talking about the public sector leaders and the problem of leadership in our societies in the MENA region, they have a problem. The executive centers, training centers, can help in solving this problem and provide the bridge. I intend, before this presentation, I intended to break the records for the shortest presentation in the conference. I don't know if I can do it or not, but I will be so quick. Repetitive words, leadership in the public sector is critical element that shapes effectiveness and efficacy, all of this. We can look at these things and these words like they are repetitive, they are general words, but take it from someone who has spent 13 years in the public sectors, leadership is everything. They can make the difference and they can damage the institutions. In this regard, executive training or education centers, they can play the role in developing this leadership, and these centers are gaining more prominence in the MENA regions in the last years. As simple as it put, I asked myself in the paper 3 main questions. What are the principles, the principal rules of executive education centers? How they are doing these rules? Which training methodologies, and what are the factors that contribute to the success or failure of executive training centers? In my research paper, I conducted 2 layers of comparison. I compared between theory and practice, the role of executive training center in leadership development in theory and in practice. This will come in the next slide. About the methodology, I chose the National Training Academy, NTA, in Egypt. I compared between National Training Academy, Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government, and King Abdullah Institute of Governance. I selected these those cases because of 2 reasons: is their government affiliation and the specific focus on leadership development. This is, of course, besides the literature reviews that I did. I classified the findings of the paper into 3 categories. The first one, the role of executive centers between theory and practice, and then I talked about the techniques that are employed by executive education centers, and the last part is about the factors that contribute to the success or failure of these centers. In theory, or in the literature, the role of executive training centers, as we all know, skills acquisition, capacity building, networking, insights, research and insights, and professional development. When I looked at the training centers and their practices in the MENA region, they are not far from the theory, by the way. On the basis of mission alignment, they focus on the skills of enhancing the skills of public leaders, especially the MBRSG and KAIG. They share the same vision. While NTA mission is closely tied to the national development goals, they are talking more about empowering youth and women in the Egyptian society and in leadership positions. And this can be viewed under the wide strategy of empowering youth and women that happening in the last years. The second part is about program diversity. The three cases differ in their specific focus. دي كانت نقطة مهمة الحقيقة. يعني NTA كانت بتprovide wide range of programs for leadership development, while at the same time MBRSG كلية محمد بن راشد offer fewer programs, but they are highly specialized programs. This is one of the difference. And at the same time, KAIG offers programs focused on foundational governance. ده مفهوم شوية في الإطار بتاع التأسيس بتاع النظام الإداري في الأردن ومحاولات الإصلاح والتطوير اللي بتحصل في الأردن. الجزء الثالث أو النقطة الثالثة اللي كنا بنتكلم فيها, the third part is about training methodology. They share some similarities in their approaches, but they have some differences. NTA focuses on experiential learning. This will be tackled in the coming slides. While MBRSG, they focus on, because it's academy, it's focused on theoretical knowledge with practical insights. While KAIG follows an approach that collaborates between the different stakeholders and the institution to get to know the real needs of these institutions to leadership development. The last part in this point is the impact on governance. NTA focus on youth and women positions. That makes it a transformative force in Egyptian governance. Take it from one who has been working for a long time in the public sector. The problem is that most of the leadership roles, the older people, the elderly, all of them, they take the leadership roles. The empowering of youth and women was at its lowest levels. Now it's not. MPRSG, it focuses on the research-driven governance. This helps in the policies itself to have a better effect on policies that can lead to sustainable development, while KAIG plays a role in strengthening the institutional capacity in Jordan. الجزء الثاني من الفايننس كنا بنتكلم هنا فيه عن البيست techniques that are employed by these executive training centers. In the literature, we have famous 5 techniques: experiential learning, which involves simulations, role plays, problem-solving scenarios. The importance of this technique can be tackled in some interesting statistics. 90% of participants in experiential learning programs improved problem-solving skills, according to a report by the Association of Experiential Education. Also, a survey conducted by the Center of Creative Leadership revealed that organizations investing in experiential learning reported a 50% increase in leadership efficacy compared to conventional or traditional training approaches. The second point is coaching and mentoring. هنا بنتكلم عن الليتريتشر بيقول ايه في الادوات دي او التكنيكس دي اللي احنا بنتاكل يعني. الكوتشنج as we دكتور ليلى الصبح كانت بتتكلم, we had a great discussion about the coaching and mentoring and how it could help in shaping the leaders and raise its skills and improve it. This is one of the tools that can be used, as we mentioned. The International Coach Federation in 2017 reported a 70% improvement in work performance for individuals who have a coaching relationship. This is an indicator for the importance of coaching and mentoring in leadership development. Also, another study found that 75% of executives attribute their success to mentorship. There are other ways and other techniques that includes structured training programs. This is more traditional and conventional way that focus on workshops and seminars, online courses. Also peer learning and group discussions. We collect the leaders in a collaborative environment and they share their experiences with each other, and also the feedback mechanisms, and we will have a good discussion, I guess, about the feedback because it's one of the important parts that could, one of the important factors that could help to success or failure of training centers. طيب المينا اكسبيرينس بقى في الجزئيه دي ايه؟ يعني ايه التكنيكس اللي هم بيشتغلوا بيها المراكز اللي احنا بندرسها؟ They share similar teaching techniques in delivering knowledge, but they vary in their emphasis on some specific techniques. يعني while MBRSG focus on experiential learning with theoretical approach طبعا بنلاقي ان KAIG uses the same technique while NTA emphasizes more on interactive learning methods fostering engagement and collaboration. They organize some visits to historical places in Egypt to help the participant to get to know each other. This is one way of interactive learning. Also, I found that both MBRSG and KEG incorporates coaching elements to their programs. This happens with them, but this is not prominent in NTA learning techniques. But they are uniquely employs a tool called competency-based education, which allows participants to progress based on their mastery of specific competences rather than traditional time-based metrics. Also, according to feedback, KEG and the MBRSG feedback processes are crucial for developing self-awareness, but all of the 3 case studies I studied in this research, they have problems with the assessment process and the feedback process. Here comes the last part, inshallah, يعني. Factors of success and failure. I'll give a quick elaboration about each factor. The success or failure of executive training programs can be influenced by various factors. One of them is organizational alignment. If the training aligns with the vision of the institution, this could help to gain support, which achieves common goals at the end of the day. But if it's not, and the programs that are employed by executive training centers, they are using one-size-fits-all approach. This is not a way, it proved wrong at all ways in each society, I guess. Also the executive support and sponsorship, if the leadership of the organization supporting the participation of their leaders, senior leaders, in these programs, this could help in giving more importance for the training itself. Also, this is one factor related to the executive training center itself. If they have clear objectives and goals, this help in delivering the knowledge needed for the public leaders. This is a problem happens in everywhere in the MENA region. Some of the training centers, they don't have clear vision and objectives. They don't know what we are going to do. We are making a training for leaders in the public sector, and we don't know the real objective, but we're just giving a course at the end of the day. Also, the participant engagement and involvement, this is one of the important, the involvement and engagement of participants is one of the success factors for the programs. This is one important point. Also, rigorous evaluation strategies. Evaluation is one of the most important factors that could contribute to the success or failure of the programs, and also the adaptability of the learning process itself in the training centers. If it's flexible and it adapts with the changing circumstances of the participants, it will be more effective. This is one of the most important parts, and this is the last part of my presentation. This is the discussion. This is how I engaged with the findings of the paper. The study reaffirmed that leadership can actually make a difference for leaders, and the Executive Training Center play a role in that. Also combine the programs that promote both transactional and the transformational leadership, one of the most effective ways to deliver the knowledge. A comparison revealed that while executive training centers in the MENA region share some similarities, as we mentioned, they have different methodologies and the tools that is more related to their position in the society, UAE or Jordan or Egypt, and the sponsorship and each and every point that we mentioned. Also, this is one of the most important points, public leaders, they are involved in this program through two ways. Either by applying by themselves on a platform مثلا نقدم على الموقع عشان نبقى في البرنامج ده, or they are nominated by their institutions. في الحالتين some consideration has to be taken, that like desired leadership outcomes. Each executive center has to ask himself what sort of leaders, what we are going to produce. Also, the cultural context, including potential resistance to change, one of the factors that could affect the success or failure of the program, and also the work environment and the ability to learn and digest what they learned and then apply it. آخر حاجة research يعني خلينا آخر حاجة هنقولها سريعا. يعني الحاجات دي كلها احنا بنتكلم, كنت النقطه اللي طرحتها في الدراسه اللي ممكن تكون جديده, الفيدباك, ان احنا نتكلم على multifaceted feedback to trainees. This could be conducted a follow-up assessment every 3 months for a total period of year. Encourage team members of the participant to evaluate their selected leaders before and after the program, and also delivering a comprehensive assessment report to trainees, leaders, or institutional leaders, to be used as a criteria for promoting them leaders. This multifaceted approach add a layer of seriousness for participants to take it as a serious program, not just a course. Finally, I want to say that there is no leadership formula. It's rather a long process of learning and experience at the end, like building the general character throughout our lives. Thank you.
No, just on time. No, I just want to say that this is a nice space to kind of put out your different ideas. A lot of this research is a work in progress. So please do, when we open up the Q&A, give feedback, give ideas. I think we're all here to learn in different ways. So thank you for being open to presenting. It is a courageous act. Okay, so our next presenter is Ms. Sihem Ait Hammou and Reem Saadoun. Ms. Sihem is going to present. I think Reem is presenting in another room. And their paper is titled The Quality Recognition System, a New Mode of Public Action. Sihem is a doctoral researcher at doing her research, doing her doctorate in agricultural economics, but specifically rural economies at ENSA in Algeria. Right? Okay, good. I'm translating from the French, so it's taking me a second. And she's part of the Research Center of Applied Economics for the Development in Algeria. "15 minutes.
يعني ممكن نشتغل هذه. شكرا. مساء الخير، شكرا لكم. يعني المداخلة راح تكون باللغة العربية لو سمحتوا. شكرا. يعني سهام أيت حمو، باحثة في الاقتصاد الريفي من الجزائر. يعني الدخل تاعنا صح راح يتمحور حول السياسات الزراعية في الجزائر. تواجه السياسات العامة تحديات جديدة تؤدي إلى تجديد العمل العام، ومن ثم يتشكل إصلاح جديد للعمل العمومي الذي يركز على الشراكة والمشاركة ويؤكد على اللامركزية وتمكين الفاعلين على المستوى المحلي. هذا النمط الجديد من إدارة الشؤون العامة يعتمد على مشاركة المجتمع المدني، وذلك على جميع المستويات، ويشير إلى توسيع دائرة أصحاب المصلحة، مما يؤدي إلى ظهور المزيد من أشكال المحلية للتشاور وصنع القرار على المستوى المحلي. يعني من أجل تنظيم المداخلة ديالنا سوف نتطرق إلى 4 نقاط. في النقطة الأولى سوف تتمحور حول مختلف السياسات الزراعية التي تواجدت في الجزائر بعد الاستقلال إلى سنوات 2000، ثم نتطرق إلى عرض يعني مشكلة بحثنا التي تليها عملية المنهجية للتحليل، وفي الأخير نقدم النتائج التي نرى أنها كانت رئيسية. يعني شهدت السياسات الزراعية والريفية المختلفة في الجزائر منذ الاستقلال وحتى سنوات 2000 تطبيق برامج مصممة ومخططة مركزيا وفق المنهج من الأعلى إلى الأسفل. وعلى الرغم من وجود محاولات لتحرير وخصخصة إدارة المزارع في الثمانينات وانسحاب كبير للدولة بالشؤون الزراعية، يجب الانتظار العقد الأول من القرن 21 حتى نتمكن من رؤية بداية انفصال على الأساليب العمل العامة التقليدية وإعادة توجيه العمل العام نحو أنماط جديدة لإدارة الزراعة والإقليم الريفي، والتي تقوم على مبدأ التكامل المشاركة لجميع أصحاب المصلحة في إجراءات التنمية. في سنوات 2000 أعادت السلطات الجزائرية النظر إلى سياسة التنمية وأعادت توجيه العمل العام نحو أنماط جديدة للحكم لتشكيل إصلاح جديد للعمل العام والعمومي يركز على مفهوم الشراكة والمشاركة. يعني في هذا الإطار صدر قانون توجيه الفلاحة لسنة 2008 الذي أدمج البعد التشاركي في أهدافه الأساسية ودعا إلى دعم أصحاب المصلحة في قضايا التنمية. وقد اعترف، يعني كان شيء جديد، اعترف بالجودة المرتبطة بالإقليم. في مادتي 32 و 33 من هذا القانون أسس نظام الاعتراف بالجودة المرتبطة بالإقليم. تضع هذه المواد الإطار التنظيمي الأول لنظام الاعتراف بالجودة للجودة المنتوجات الزراعية أو المنتوجات ذات الأصل الزراعي. إطار أدى إلى إصدار منصور تنفيذي في سنة 2013 الذي يحدد النظام الوطني للتوسيم، والذي يحدد علامات مميزة 4 فيما يخص الاعتراف بالجودة. يعد النظام الوطني للتوسيم بمثابة مقدمة جديدة للمشهد المؤسسي الذي يهدف إلى تعزيز الجودة المرتبطة بالإقليم. يعد وضع العلامات جزءاً من نهج التنمية الإقليمية، والذي يجمع فكرتين: الأولى حول الحوكمة التي تقرب العمل العام من أصحاب الجهات الفاعلة المحلية، أي أنها مسألة مشاركة متعددة الجهات الفاعلة. والثانية حول الجودة، أي تثمين المرتبطة بالجودة الخاصة بالإقليم. نظام الاعتراف بالجودة المنتجات الزراعية تم تصميمه بطريقة المشاركة، يعني هذا كان شيء جديد فيما يخص السياسات الزراعية. وتم دعوة الجهات الفاعلة الخاصة والجمعيات للانضمام إلى الجهة العامة لإنشاء هذا الجهاز. وبالتالي يمكننا أن نتساءل كيف يمكن للجهات الفاعلة، يعني القطاع الخاص العام والجمعوي، أن يتمكن من تنسيق وبناء أهداف مشتركة. فيما يخص الطريقة التحليلية، نقترح تحليل إصلاح العمل العام في مجال الزراعة من خلال الحوكمة، ولذلك قمنا بتحليل التطويرات المؤسسية والتنظيمية التي تم إجراؤها أثناء بناء وتنفيذ نظام التعرف على الجودة المنتجات الزراعية. إن الهدف من الحوكمة كما هو معروف هو اشتراك مجموعة متباينة من الجهات الفاعلة، ذلك على مستوى المستويات. وفي هذا السياق تم بناء مبادرة منهجية على أساس فهم المشاركة، التنسيق والعمل الجماعي. اهتمينا بفهم المشاركة والسلوك التعاوني بين الممثلين عبر مواقف الحوار والتفاعل العلني. اهتمينا بتقدير التنسيق في البعد العمودي وبعده الأفقي، واهتمينا أيضا بالمهارات التنظيمية بين الممثلين في مختلف الفئات وعلى مستوى كل المستويات المختلفة. تهدف المنهجية المتعددة في هذا البحث إلى تحديد ليس فقط الجهات الفاعلة الرئيسية المشاركة في تنظيم نظام التعرف على الجودة، ولكن أيضاً التفاعلات الناجمة من هذا السياق. يعني بعد تحليل عملية إنشاء نظام الاعتراف بالجودة من حيث الجوانب التنظيمية، الهيكلية والتنظيمية، حددنا أصحاب المصلحة المختلفين، أجرينا مقابلات مع مختلف أصحاب المصلحة، مما أتاحت لنا يعني هذه المقابلات تحديد التغيرات والسلوكيات الجديدة التي تبنتها الجهات المختلفة الفاعلة في إنشاء هذا النظام الاعتراف بالجودة. يعني النتائج الرئيسية اللي تحصلنا عليها أن الجهاز التعرف عن الجودة المنتجات الزراعية كان يحدد 4 علامات الجودة، وهي العلامة الزراعية والبيولوجية الزراعية وتسمية المنشأ والمؤشر الجغرافي، بالإضافة إلى ممثلين العامين. يعني أصبح الممثلين الخاصون والمجتمع المدني مرتبطين بمبادرة التصنيف. فيما يتعلق بتكوين هياكل مختلفة للأجهزة التعرف عن الجودة ومهامهم، يمكننا الاعتراف بحجم المشاركة. يعني الأطراف المختلفة خاصة المحليين يعني كانوا مرتبطين في هذه العملية، ومن خلال هذا التكامل كل فئة تشارك بشكل مباشر أو يتم تمثيلها في آلية القرار. أظهرت النتائج التعاون بين الجهات الفاعلة العامة الخاصة والمجتمع المدني، وبيّنت أيضاً ظهور مهارات تنظيمية بين الممثلين العامين والمركزيين والمنتجين المحليين. اعتماداً على القرارات التي ذكرها الممثلون خلال المقابلات التي أجريناها، حددنا مواقف وحالات المشاركة وبناء أهداف مشتركة. يعني تم تشكيل مجموعة مما سميناه في مجموعة من الميسرين لتكون بمثابة حلقة وصل دائمة بين الجهات الفاعلة المركزية والجهات الفاعلة المحلية. مجموعة غير متجانسة للغاية من الممثلين، لكنهم عملوا معا وكانوا في بعض الأحيان هيكلا للتواصل، قد بنوا مساحة للتفكير، الحوار والمشاورة كانت جد مفيدة للمنتجين المحليين. كما شاركوا أيضاً في مساحات استشارية للجهات الفاعلة العامة المركزية والمنتجين المحليين. ويدل يعني تشكيل هذه المجموعة على تطور القدرة التنظيمية لدى الجهات الفاعلة المحلية، وينعكس ذلك في تنظيم اجتماعات وكذلك في المناقشة والحوار حول المسائل ووضع المعايير التقنية للمنتج. وقد تميزت هذه المجموعة في قيادة النقاش، مما أتاح لأصحاب المصلحة المحليين مساحة للمناقشة والتفاوض والتشاور، مما سمح في اتخاذ قرارات مشتركة وإجراءات مشتركة أيضاً. الهدف من هذا البحث يعني كان تحديد كيف يمكن لعمل عام الذي يتم تنفيذه وفق النهج من الأعلى إلى الأسفل من قبل الدولة المركزية أن يولد مشاركة أوسع للجهات الفاعلة المحلية، وبعيداً عن عدم تجانسها قد عملت الفئات المختلفة من جهات الفاعلة الموجودة على جميع المستويات حول هدف مشترك. تم بناء عمل جماعي محلي من خلال مساحات النقاش والتشاور. يعني سمحت تحليل الحوكمة الإقليمية بتحديد الدوافع الرئيسية والتفاوض والتشاور للتغييرات التنظيمية. وفي الواقع فإن النهج التشاركي وكذلك العلاقات الأفقية القائمة على التفاوض والتشاور والتي يتم تنفيذها كجزء من هذا النظام الاعتراف بالجودة شجعت على التغيير. لقد أظهرت سلوكات والمهارات فيما يتعلق بالعمل الجماعي أن إنشاء نظام تعرف على الجودة دفع أصحاب المصلحة إلى اعتماد أساليب التنظيم الجماعي، وذلك على عدة مستويات. شكرا.
شكرا سهام. very interesting research. يعني استفدنا كتير وعندي أسئلة كتير، بس ممكن بعد ما ناخد آخر مداخلة. So for our final presentation, we have Ahmed Rashad. His talk is titled Breaking Barriers, Investigating the Effects of 100% Foreign Ownership on Business Entry in Dubai. So Dr. Ahmed is an assistant professor of economics at Anwar Gargesh Diplomatic Academy in Abu Dhabi. He has a PhD in economic development. He works primarily on economic diplomacy, international economics, and economic development. And he blends academic expertise with significant professional experience in government roles, reflecting a deep engagement in policy making and implementation. Dr. Ahmed, over to you.
So I know I'm in a public policy conference, not an. So I know it's a public policy, not an economic conference. So I will try to be as less technical as possible. So the paper, what I'm trying to do is cluster clear. So without further ado, so what is the problem or the research problem or what I'm after? So basically what happened is in the region, and generally, FDI is quite below its potential, either for oil importing countries or oil exporting countries, are both below its potential. In particular, when I'm talking about the Gulf countries, while trade is liberalized to a large degree, so there are freedom of trade and engagement, high engagement of trade. It's not the case in FDI. And one part of explanation why FDI is low or an entrepreneurship is low is the highly regulated business environment. And this is what is the paper after, okay? So I mean by highly regulated, I mean less flexible, rigid, rules, that is not very supportive and so on, right? And so what it comes to you when Dubai comes in your mind is more or less becoming as a vibrant business center in the Gulf region and maybe in the Middle East, right? Famous for digital, flexible, and fast, and so on. And obviously, the competition is increasing, right? And of course, we cannot deny this from the transformation that is happening in Saudi. And the transformation is happening in Saudi for the other economies need to be ahead. عشان لازم يسبق لقدام and so on. So Dubai is moving further, and the UAE in general. But as you know, the UAE is federal, so each one has its own local government, and more or less the economy is an internal to each emirate, right? It's not مش اتحادي, okay? Anyway, so the decision here is the policy that has been introduced, and also the IMF is after it. So and احنا بمصر بنسمع عن برنامج الإصلاح الهيكلي and so on, and part of it is تحرير الاقتصاد and liberalizing the economy, right? And one of the key recommendation of this structural reform program is هو more flexible business regulation, okay? And the IMF, for example, has recommended less restriction when it comes to the business ownership. So you have, before 2021, you had the rules in Dubai. In order to start a business, you need, I'm talking about inshore, okay? I will come to this in a minute. You need a local partner, okay, to start a business with, to partner the business with. After 2021, and what is this paper is after is quantitative in nature, is they have liberalized the rules, which means that this nationality constraint has been removed, okay? It's not necessary that you partner with a UAE national to start a business, right? So except for some activities, لبعض الأنشطة which is considered to be strategic. So national security, defense, banks, this type of things are kept with the same rules, right? So now you have two things. You have at the same time, you have some activities which include the strategic activities, also civil transaction activities that has kept the same. And you have other activities that has been liberalized, بقت مفتوحة أكتر and so on, right? Going at the same time. So so this is in economics is a natural experiment, a sort of تجربة طبيعية without, or quasi experiment without going to the lab and so on. So before this law, there has been this free zones. So المناطق الحرة, it has this exceptions and so on from the day one, but the free zones is not an end in itself. Free zone is a stepping stone to liberalize the whole economy at a later stage. So, so this is just cement what I was saying, is that the FDI inflows is basically going a bit down. So FDI stock of percent as a Dubai GDP is obviously quite high compared to other countries. Although if you compare it a bit to Singapore, as a share some characteristics with Dubai, is still Dubai is lagging behind in these terms. So as I have explained, is that what I'm after is basically comparing the impact of this public policy, right? So you have a public policy in place and you want to evaluate it. What is the impact of taking this step? Okay, and obviously this is an important question to the policymakers, because public policy assessment is again even useful for other countries that may go taking the same path. So you have this regulatory change that basically it has been introduced in 2021. So the amendments in commercial law was in 2021, and it allows, theoretically speaking, more than 1,000 commercial activities. So different commercial activities مختلفة, which I mean نوع النشاط التجاري يعني, okay? Although what is active from them is about 800. And before the introduction of these amendments in the law, 49% was the maximum that a foreigner can own the company of total assets outside the free zones. After the change, then they have been allowed to own up to a 100%. Why this is important? Why such an this removing this constraint is a good strategy? Basically, it can reduce one barrier. It can now expatriates are more confidence in their decision, less dispute problems في حالة النزاعات أو الخلافات. Basically, بعض الأحيان they have this the sleeping agent problem is that someone is added on the company and just a sort of rent seeking. And basically it has an implication in the cost of business. So the idea, the hypothesis is that after this law, more entrepreneurship, because less straightforward starting business, cost of business could go lower, more confidence, less dispute, and so on, right? So this what the hypothesis would suggest. So what we see in the data, so the data of this paper is that I have at this time, I had the business registers, سجل الأعمال بالكامل, of 1,575 different type of business activity, right? And you had, as I explained before, you had this type of activities that has been become flexible, and you have ones that remain constrained, right? And you want to see the difference in divergence, how they move before and after, right? So the law has been introduced in June 1st, has been applied in June 1st. And before that, we had the same rules applying for all different types of business activities, right? So at this time, I had a short panel data. So basically, you do what we call in economics difference in difference, right? So you see the difference in growth between those who has been constrained and this has been what we call treatment group, المجموعة المعالجة, and control group just for observing, right? And you would, and then we use this econometric methodology, and then what I'm interested at is basically what we call this beta 3. Beta 3 is the difference in the growth trends between the two groups, right? I think the objective maybe is very clear. Okay, I can skip this. So this is if you look to the total. The colors is not obvious from the slide there, but it's not obvious. Anyway, so you have seen this after the introduction of the law. You see in June, you see this explosion that happened to the total number of licenses, اللي هو عدد الرخص يعني, okay? عدد الرخص ممارسة الأعمال. Okay, so you have seen this explosion, but of course it can be happening of other factors. To refine this analysis, you need what's so-called a control group, a group that was not affected by everything else except the law. Okay, so affected by COVID, affected by the financial conditions, except the change in the law. Right? So you had treatment group, you had a control group. So control group, economic activities with strategic impact, other activities not listed in the law. Right? So you can quickly, you can see the difference in the trend. So you see the vertical line, this is split the two into before and after, right? So before, in order to make sure that this analysis is correct, you have to make sure there is a parallel trend, like your control group and treatment group moving together, right? And then after everything, after the law, everything changed. If they are not parallel before the introduction of the law, then you are not having a control group. So basically, you see what happened. This is the observed means. You see what happened after. You see this line that is spike up, and you see the other one that is not affected by the law to continue in the same direction. So basically, we have in brief, the beta 3 has been very highly significant with the statistics of 11, and the number of observation is 14,000, and the standard error using our robust standard errors. So very briefly, so we have seen that the deregulation has impacted the entrepreneurship and the business entry rates in a positive, significant positive way. There could be a number of explanation, could be more investment autonomy, cost of doing business has reduced, the attractiveness of business environment, all of this has been contributing. So in brief and final comment is that this paper has been already almost accepted and will be soon out in the Journal of Entrepreneurship and Public Policy. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Go ahead. It's so great to hear that when papers get accepted and are on their way to being published, it's such a long process. 2 years. Wow. Okay, so I think we have about 15 minutes for questions and comments and reflections. I will just take a minute to maybe just say a few comments that you guys can think about that might be useful for the improvements of your papers and maybe also future research. So for Amira, I think it was a wonderful start and really detailed literature review. I think it would be very interesting, as you said, to see it implemented and hopefully maybe part of with some of the partners you guys have, it could be implemented in some of the organizations you partner with. I was also interested to know, and maybe later on you can add this maybe a bit more to the research on the types of literature that you reviewed, which was a lot of it was the global literature, but maybe also a little bit on regional literature that might be useful. There's quite a few new kind of reports on resilience that have been coming up. And I would even push for a resilience theory from the MENA. How do we translate it? How do we think about it? I loved how you operationalized it and really localized it in this case. But you know, I think you can even have an even stronger theoretical contribution that we need in the field. For BISM, so again, I think very, very interesting. We have an executive education program here as well. So it would be great if you come and assess it and tell us what we need to be doing. I think for me, what was interesting was this idea about specialized programs versus the larger range programs and how there is such a diversity across the different schools in the region. And I think maybe digging into that a little bit more would help us understand what works, what doesn't, what actual public officials are looking for, what worked for them, what didn't. So I'm a qualitative researcher, so I always push people to go the extra mile and then maybe actually start talking to some of the participants to find a bit more on that. I was interested in I think the Maktoum School on research-driven trainings. And I was wondering if that was because they were affiliated with certain types of faculty or where this research-driven kind of capacity building comes from. And also to think about the criteria for the success and failures that you showed us when you're taking us through that. Maybe tell us a little bit more where those come from, but then again, maybe with additional research from the participants themselves, that might come out a little bit more. And you mentioned that at the end, if we go back and get feedback, that would be very useful. For Siham, I think I'll speak in English and then I can also translate afterwards. But I think just linking again to resilience, and I think particularly in agriculture, this idea of top-down policy becoming a space for public action, for collaboration, and for trying to think through the informal structures on the ground coming together to, in a way, localize, but also really bring these top-down policies to the communities is very powerful. So I really enjoyed your paper, and I really enjoyed thinking about this and connecting it to what resilience actually means on the ground, given that there's been this push for formalization across all sectors, at least in Egypt, but across the Middle East. And it sounds like this is one form of formalizing what are the groups, the facilitator group that you mentioned as well, and linking them to these top-down approaches. So I think I found that very fascinating. And I think something like labeling, which is the EU has been doing for a long time. So maybe trying to do maybe something comparative in the future on the policies adopted in Algeria, but also elsewhere, what kind of effects that has, and if it's going to open up space for exporting, maybe also later on, but having the communities be part of that process as well. And finally, to Dr. Ahmed, I know this is already submitted, but I think for me, it's fascinating. I think the policies on ownership across the region are changing. It would be interesting to think about if this is happening in other Emirates, if it would happen in other Gulf countries, or it has already happened. It's something I would love to hear more about. But also if there have been breakaway enterprises. So if there's been companies that before had Emirati counterparts or sleeping partners, and then they moved away from that and then kind of went off on their own. It would be interesting to hear about if that actually exists. But I'll open up to the audience. Dr. Ola, you've been waiting a long time, so I appreciate that. And then we have Asha. Go ahead.
I don't feel it's working. Oh, it's okay. I just have a comment on Amira's paper. And actually, it took me to a journey. I mean, while she was actually presenting her paper to the area of public policy making, it's very interesting that we see this approach. I think that taking resilience from a public policy perspective is very important. As it opens the door to more realistic policies to be put on earth. I also have this comment that I like the idea of measuring, or that she's studying the literature on measuring the stages, okay, of being into shock, whether we talk about the pre-shock or the dynamics of the shock, or how to overcome and get back to the a basic situation. I'm really interested to see actually if there are studies that really quantify, all right, these stages, and that organizations, I mean, could have this ability to really measure the dynamics, okay, of the movement of the shock and how resilience policies may help to solve. I also was impressed by the idea that the resilient policies can take us to an era of impact analysis, which could be more actually tangible through the resilience policies and measuring their impact. I just have one question. I'm not really sure that your study actually have resolved, which is the possible redundancy or overlap between the government responsiveness, okay, and risk management, all right, that both are the government is involved in, and how can we actually deliberate, all right, an area that is straightforward, focusing on resilience policies. Is there any kind of, where is the big umbrella, all right? Is it responsiveness? Is it resilience? Where does the risk management come? Sorry for having this
Thank you.
long comment.
No, you've
Thank
been
you.
waiting a while. Thank you. Ashaba at the back. Naama's getting a lot of exercise.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. But my question goes to Ahmed, who presented about FDIs. I really understand and I acknowledge that FDIs really have a great advantage to a country because of the metrics, economic-wise, the figures are amazing. But where does it leave the local population? As you are doing your research, did you at one time try to investigate like some of the existing companies that were flourishing, then after these inflows of FDIs, that they collapsed completely? and where does it leave the sovereignty of a country? Sometimes these FDIs can even impair the political judgment. For example, what happened with Huawei, Chinese telecom giant in US, sometimes can influence. So during your research, these factors, did you assess them and you understand how are the citizens benefiting anyways from these FDIs? Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. If there are no more questions, we can kind of start from the beginning of the panel and just maybe 1 minute of reflections.
Thank you, Doctor. First, thank you so much for your comments, Dr. Noura, about the... Oh, it's working? Yeah. Thank you for your comments on the paper, and I think the regional perspective is really important, and I think I will take it into consideration. As I said, it's part of my thesis, and I already applied the assessment tool into the pre-university education in Egypt. So it's, yeah, I'm a bit to finish the dissertation, so hopefully soon we can see the results of the application of this assessment tool. So thank you so much for your comments. Ola, طبعا, thank you so much for the comments. For the quantification of resilience, yes, there are lots of papers that focus on resilience from a quantitative perspective, but to the best of my knowledge, there are no papers so far focusing on the pre, during, and post, that important aspect when it comes to the quantification. And I think one of the future research that based on the application of my assessment tool, maybe the quantification of this assessment tool so far. And for, yes, there is overlap between the risk management and resilience so far, but in the literature, the risk management focuses on more of the processes within the organizations, but the resilience is the bigger umbrella that is focusing on the capabilities of the organizations to face disruptions. And I hope I answered your question. Thank you, Habib.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. I really liked it and will take it into consideration. Actually, I know that you have an executive training center here in the AUC. I was thinking of it, but I told myself that I'm presenting the paper at AUC, so we don't know.
We accept critique.
But due to the time limit of preparing the paper, I conducted a qualitative research based on the comparison, the two layers of comparison between theory and practice of the rules of the executive training centers in MENA region, and also the other layer is the comparison between these centers, how they are employing their techniques and their teaching methods that are they are similar يعني in one part, but in the other part they have distinct variations. I think and I believe that they can learn from each other, and we can employ different techniques to reach what we need if we are creating leaders to hold positions in our society. So we need more to focus on how we can do this. It's not just a course about leadership. It cannot be like that. There is no one size fits all approach. It's not succeeding everywhere. But they have to learn some things, and they have to know, and they have to be serious in taking this kind of training to be responsible for leadership positions. I wanted to make a deep, assessment for the NTA and the two other institutions, but it was hard here in Egypt, and you know that there are different considerations. You can't get the data from NTA, but I was lucky enough to have some of my colleagues in work. Three of them, they were part of the EPLP, Executive Presidential Leadership Program by NTA, and they have different responses. But they all share one thing, that the programs and their participation in this executive program was not part of their promotion. It's not a guarantee that I will be in a leadership position. So what is the vision? What is the real vision of this institution? Because it's a great strategy and a great institution. It was meant to be the hub of all training centers in Egypt. So I guess further research. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for the paper. It's very interesting, and I think maybe Ola shares with me the insights that I'm going to say about because we're working on public administration, as you saw the presentation, and one of the key problems facing Egypt when it comes to the public administration is the poor capacity of the training centers. And what Bassem brought is very interesting when it comes also to the idea of that the topics and the training topics are very broad, and it's like one size fits all. And here's a problem, because when you want to build the capacities, you need to go deeper and deeper. And I think this is very interesting, and I recommend that you need to focus also on Saqqara, because it's the local administration. Yeah, it's the local administration training center, which is the minister just started a plan of revamping Saqqara, and this would be very interesting to focus on the local level leaders. And thank you.
Thank you for your شكرا على الملاحظات. يعني نمط العام فيما يخص العمل العمومي في الجزائر بالخاصة، يعني دائما يكون من الأعلى للأسفل، يعني on top down. يعني والخصوصا فيما يخص نمط نمط لابيليك سيستم، يعني is exception، ça a été une exception. في هذه الحالة لذا يعني كان عندنا اضطرينا ندرس هذه الحالة، لأن في الأول يعني السياسات الزراعية يعني منذ الاستقلال حتى السنوات 2000 كانت بنمط من الأعلى للأسفل، توب داون اند كوماند اند كنترول، تنفيذ القرار على المستوى المركزي يعني، والمحليين سواء كان المزارعين والفلاحين يعني لا لهم أساس في القرار. يعني هذا النمط ابتداء من سنوات 2000 كان يؤدي إلى مبدأ المشاركة والاشتراك. يعني فيما يخص لابيلينغ سيستم، أخذوا السلطات المعنية أخذت بهذا المبدأ يعني المشاركة، وقامت يعني بوضع طاولة المناقشة والتشاور مع المنتجين المحليين، يعني أيضا مع المزارعين على المستوى المنتوجات المحلية، لأن نظام الجودة فيما يخص المتعلق بالإقليم يعني كانوا فئة يعني كانت يعني في الأصل كانت فئة يعني متمركزة على المستوى فيما يخص منطقة بجاية، يعني هي منطقة في شمال الجزائر. يعني هما كان عندهم منتوج فيما يخص التين المجفف، يعني هذا من أول المنتوجات التي قاموا بوضع علامة الجودة فيما يخص هذا المنتوج. وهذا المنتوج يعني كانت جماعة كانوا جد منتظمين، يعني في الأساس كان عندهم النظام هذا على المستوى المحلي. ولما جاء قرار فيما يخص نظام الجودة الوطني، يعني أخذوا هذه المنطقة كأول منتوج. يعني في الأول كان ديجا التنظيم هذا كان ديجا متواجد على مستوى القطاع، لذا نجحت هذه العملية فيما يخص أنظمة الجودة. يعني الهدف كان أول هدف تنمية محلية، وكان يعني هنالك أيضا من الغرض الاستيراد حتى تكون منتوجات محمية وقابلة أيضا للاستيراد، يعني هذا فيما يخص نظام الجودة المتخصص بالمنتوجات الزراعية وذات الأصل الزراعي.
شكرا.
Thank you for the point, interesting, and also I think it share the first point with him. So whether it has been applied in other countries within the GCC, it has been applied before in Bahrain, okay, but is not has been evaluated. Also, I want to make clear it's not necessary that people could change, the entrepreneurs could change the ownership structure afterward, right? Even if he has a local partner, but it's not necessarily the choice. Some of them, maybe they have a good relation, they are benefiting from the connections that the local partner provide or access and so on. So there are some who decided to break this relation and some who prefer to keep it because in other words. So in order to assess, so there are a bunch of good questions that you can ask. So what happened to productivity? What happened to capital? What happened to labor employment? Has that grown? Has that increased? Well, you would need a survey that will track companies, right? So what I'm using here is the business register. It's not, it's the government data, the official data, and so on. So I did not have a data on the companies itself, right? But I had today, Muhammad came and issue a new company that is doing a laundry service or it does a supermarket and so on. And then I see the diversion in the trend. Of course, this is what you mentioned and his point. Of course, I was thinking about it, but I have to say that it's extremely difficult in the GCC context that you would have such a rich data or to run a survey and so on. So it's not, if you want to make something that is nationally representative and sampling techniques and so on. And I was speaking to you as I was, during this time, I was part of the government. So, so I was an insider at this time. It's on the paper. It's not in my head now, but it's I mentioned it the paper. Yeah, it's already out as an ERF paper. Yeah, regarding the FDI side effects, right? So that's of course a debate and so on. But I want to stress that is that I don't think that the Gulf countries are. It's very competitive business environment. So either in airplanes, you have Qatar, you have Emirates, you have Etihad in ports, you have Abu Dhabi ports, you have Qatar ports, and you have now Saudi is coming strongly with a new vision and so on. So they are not necessary after the capital. They are not short of capital. They are after a competitive business environment. The ultimate objective is to have diversification, right? Is they are not, they have some of the biggest sovereign wealth funds, right? So a bit less than $2 trillion. So they are biggest investor in Africa, in Egypt, in London, and other places. So the issue here is not I'm short of capital and I'm providing. No, I'm short of talents. I'm short of creative ideas, entrepreneurship, and being effective business environment, right? So of course, if you're having a cement company that is coming and polluting the environment, of course, it's a negative effect of FDI, right? But this is not what they after as more as creating a dynamic business environment, right? But this is what I could achieve given the data I have, right?
Wonderful. So thank you to the audience. Thank you for sitting this long. Thank you for the panelists. That's always hard to think at the end of the day. So a big round of applause for the panelists and for the audience. I do have the pleasure to give out the certificates for our presenters. So we'll do a round of certificates. So Amira, you're first. Then this one. Dinner is going to be at 6 p.m. at Mu'taz Al-Alfi Hall, where we were this morning. So please take a walk on the campus. It's very pretty. There's lots of gardens, hopefully not too cold. But do come back for dinner. And there's going to be a singer, and it's going to be, just a nice way to relax together. And Nama has more housekeeping. Oh, just for me? Okay, thank you so much. We have لا على ايه we have all the certificates خلاص انا going لما قالوا لي نسينا نطبع يعني بعد كل ده هتجيب السيرتيفيكت برضه قلت لهم اعملوها لي وقولوا لي وانا كمان والله ما سمعتش والله انا كمان بسمع حضرتك طب قلت ان نزلت دلوقتي برضه I don't think we crossed over بس احنا برضه انا كنت شكرا تعبناك جدا